In the 1960s, Ford built a car so fast, so furious, it didn't just win races, it humiliated the almighty Ferrari at their own game. It was called the GT40. And it wasn't a car, it was a middle finger on wheels. Decades later, Ford brought it back. Not once, but twice. And unlike the poor Thunderbird, which came back soft and forgettable, the Ford GT returned like it had something to prove. And this time, it delivered. The 2005 version? A proper tribute. Retro, loud, and ready to fight Ferraris in broad daylight. The 2017 one? A full-blown spaceship with a race win at Le Mans to prove it wasn't just for show. So how did Ford pull this off? How did they go from building a race car out of pure spite in the 60s to crafting a carbon fiber monster that ruled the 2010s and actually nailed it both times? Buckle up. We're about to dive into the wild history of 3 generations of Ford GT greatness. And yeah, it starts with a war. Back in the early 1960s, Ford wanted to buy Ferrari. But Enzo Ferrari, legendary, stubborn, dramatic, basically told Ford to get lost. And Henry Ford II, he didn't take rejection well. So what did Ford do? They spent millions building a car with one goal: beat Ferrari at Le Mans and rub it in their face. This led to the production of the GT40, a low, wide, angry machine with a V8 soundtrack and zero chill. This wasn't just a race car. It was a revenge weapon. It took a few tries, but in 1966, Ford finally pulled it off. First, second, and third at Le Mans. Total domination. Drivers like Ken Miles, Bruce McLaren, and Dan Gurney became legends behind the wheel. And it didn't stop there. The GT40 won Le Mans 4 years in a row, from 1966 to 1969. Ferrari? Nowhere in sight. The GT40 wasn't just a victory for Ford, it was a moment, a full-on American muscle flex in the heart of European racing. And just like that, a legend was born. Loud, fast, and fueled by corporate spite. But what happens when a legend fades, and someone tries to bring it back? Let's jump to 2005. The year was 2005. Gas was cheap, flip phones were king, and Ford was feeling bold. Because someone, somewhere in Dearborn, asked the wildest question of all. Hey, what if we brought back the GT40? Now hold on, this could have gone very wrong. We've seen what happens when car companies dig up legends. Looking at you, Thunderbird. But this time, Ford didn't screw it up. They didn't just copy the GT40. They resurrected it, with just enough modern sauce to keep things spicy. The 2005 Ford GT had all the right moves. Supercharged V8? Check. Mid-engine layout? Yep. Design that looked like the original GT40 ate creatine and hit the gym? Absolutely. It made 550 horsepower, went 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds, and topped out at over 200 miles per hour. Oh, and it had a 6-speed manual, because real drivers shift gears, not playlists. In tests, it went head-to-head with the best from Ferrari and Porsche, and held its own like a champ. This wasn't nostalgia. This was a proper performance machine wrapped in a love letter to Le Mans. But if the 2005 GT was a respectful nod to the past, the 2017 version? That was Ford saying, screw the past, let's build a rocket. If the 2005 GT was a respectful tribute, the 2017 GT was a full-blown covert operation. Seriously, Ford built it in secret. Even their own employees didn't know it existed until it rolled onto the Detroit Auto Show stage and sucker-punched every other car in the room. Gone was the retro charm. In came active aero, carbon fiber, everything, and an engine that sounded like a chainsaw in a bad mood. And here's the twist. No V8 this time. Nope. Ford went with a 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6. Car nerds lost their minds. A V6? In a GT. But then it hit the track, 647 horsepower, 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. Top speed? 216 miles per hour. It didn't just shut the critics up, it passed them at full throttle. Then came the mic drop. Le Mans, 2016. Exactly 50 years after Ford humiliated Ferrari, the new GT returned, and won its class. That wasn't nostalgia. That was Ford flipping the calendar to now and saying, "We're not here to remember the glory days. We're here to make new ones." But now that we've met all three, the OG, the comeback kid, and the stealthy assassin, it's time to park them side by side and settle one last question. Which Ford GT really wore the crown? So, which one do you think takes the crown? Drop it in the comments. We'll wait. All right, let's settle this. 3 cars, 3 decades. One name, GT, but only one gets the crown. Let's start with the GT40, the car that started it all. This thing wasn't just fast, it was vengeance with wheels. Born from the ashes of a failed Ferrari deal, it rolled up to Le Mans in 1966 and said, "Move." Then it took first, second, and third. Not once, not twice, but 4 years in a row. That's not a comeback. That's a takeover. Now, fast forward to 2005. Ford drops the GT, a retro-styled beast with a supercharged V8, a stick shift, and the kind of stance that made grown men weep. This wasn't nostalgia. It was a proper tribute with real firepower. 550 horsepower. 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds. No gimmicks, no fluff. Just pure Detroit muscle in a tailored suit. It didn't just look good, it backed it up. Then came the 2017 GT. And this one? This one rewrote the rulebook. Built in secret. Unveiled like a missile. No V8, no retro throwback. Just carbon fiber, active aerodynamics, and a twin-turbo V6 with a chip on its shoulder. People laughed. Then it won Le Mans, on the 50th anniversary of the GT40's original win. That's not just engineering, that's legacy. With a turbo. So, who wins? The OG legend that made Ferrari cry? The modern throwback with muscle and swagger? Or the silent killer that proved doubters wrong? You decide. But one thing's for sure, when Ford builds a GT, it doesn't ask for respect, it rips it from the track. So what have we learned? When Ford builds a GT, it's not just about horsepower or design, it's about making a statement. The GT40 said, "You don't turn your back on us." The 2005 GT said, "We still remember what greatness looks like." And the 2017 GT, that one whispered, "We don't need to yell, we've already won." 3 cars, 3 missions, 1 badge that went from racetrack royalty to collector's fantasy to hypercar elite, without skipping a beat. And the best part? None of them was perfect. The GT40 nearly didn't work. The 2005 model was almost cancelled. And the 2017 GT, well, that one had a whole lot of haters before it even hit the track. But that's what makes the GT legacy so legendary. It's not about playing it safe, it's about swinging for the fences. Whether you hit or miss, Ford swung. And 3 times in a row, it connected. Ford ruled the world with power. But across the pond, one British car did the unthinkable, and no one saw it coming. Click here to uncover the forgotten British masterpiece that shocked everyone.